You're looking at one of the most accomplished con men of the year in action. A man who this winter convinced the Roosevelt Hotel and a number of Cedar Rapids banks and businesses that he's number 53, Jim Youngblood.
Youngblood is now going to give Mr. Dickey a shot and a half.
Jim Youngblood, starting outside linebacker for the LA Rams football team. At the Roosevelt, the man took part, in fact, took a swim, in this taping for a TV commercial. Newswatch obtained the tape to show you what it was like when William Wood, former Toledo, Ohio policeman, convinced all Cedar Rapids he was a pro football star.
He acted like a football player. He acted like a man who liked people. He enjoyed being here. He talked with everyone. I don't think there was a person he didn't speak to. And for hours, just play with children, young boys, young girls, show them how to pass, play football with them in the water. Just really a good time. And they thought it was great because they were playing football with the great Jim Youngblood.
Of course they weren't, as a simple picture comparison shows. This is the real Jim Youngblood. How did the hotel people finally figure it out?
By a bubblegum football card.
You're kidding.
No. We had the suspicion that he was not Jim Youngblood. And so we got in touch with some friends of ours and that had children and started looking through football cards. And sure enough, he was not who he said he was.
So Lee confronted him, said, "I know you're not Youngblood." He said, "You're right. I'm an undercover cop, and my life's in danger if you tell anybody." And so the con went on to Illinois, on to Milwaukee, where an arrest warrant awaits William Wood, and on to Nevada, where Wood was arrested and jailed recently for impersonating a Justice Department official. I'm Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch, Cedar Rapids. Cedar Rapids at midnight. This is when our runaways gather in parking lots and outside bars. Nearly 1,000 Cedar Rapids kids run away to join the street life every year. That's about 3 new runaways every day. On the street, the runaways become prostitutes. They join shoplifting rings. They deal drugs. This at an average age of 14 and a half. And these are not out-of-staters. They're Cedar Rapids teens. They're your kids, your neighbors' kids.
It's just every second at a time, you don't know what you're going to be doing next. You stay out and you don't wear shoes and you catch a cold and you stay up all night and you get run down, you get drunk or get loaded or whatever you do every night, and it got to a point where I was so sick I had a temperature of 104.
They're really desperate. Most of the kids we see, especially the kids off the street.
Mike Turner is director of this runaway shelter on 18th Street Northeast.
Some of them haven't had food, they haven't had any medical attention, they're really bad up for clothes.
Dan is a private investigator who doesn't want his identity revealed. On a late-night tour of the street scene, Dan told me many runaways get into crime in exchange for a house to stay.
A great deal of shoplifting is sponsored by these houses. There's some prostitution that I'm aware of. There's quite a bit of theft as far as you'll find some breaking and entering involved and other types of things.
This is First Avenue, runaway Main Street. Some of the kids who hang out here become part of a loosely organized runaway network that funnels Cedar Rapids kids to Kansas City and Chicago. And Newswatch has learned that one group out of Los Angeles and Las Vegas pays $5,000 for a Cedar Rapids runaway girl. A local man is known to entice our children to go west, where they become hookers or drug pushers. Others hitchhike, but that's often a surefire route to prostitution.
Pretty strange. They just go in there, do us a favor for 20 bucks, get lost. No.
Did you ever do it?
No, I wouldn't.
A lot of girl runaways do, though.
Yeah. That's, you know, when you get desperate, that's about the way to do it.
Next on Teens in Trouble, who runs away and why? I'm Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch in Cedar Rapids. Some of the kids who hang out here become part of a loosely organized runaway network that funnels Cedar Rapids kids to Kansas City and Chicago. And Newswatch has learned that one group out of Los Angeles and Las Vegas pays $5,000 for a Cedar Rapids runaway girl. A local man is known to entice our children to go west, where they become hookers or drug pushers. Others hitchhike, but that's often a surefire route to prostitution.
Pretty strange. They just go in there, do us a favor for 20 bucks, get lost. No.
Did you ever do it?
No, I wouldn't.
A lot of girl runaways do, though.
Yeah. That's, you know, when you get desperate, that's about the way to do it.
Next on Teens in Trouble, who runs away and why? I'm Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch in Cedar Rapids.
I'm Maggie Jensen. Lake McBride is back in business. We'll take a look at the 4th of July celebrants.
I'm Mike Walcher. Hundreds of people take part in Iowa's biggest small-town parade. We'll have a special report on that, along with a look at a Cedar Falls tombstone rubber. Maggie and I will have those stories, plus some helping hand advice for drivers. All on News Watch next.
Under with the sports.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Walcher. Dave Shea and John Bachman have a holiday off, and Maggie Jensen and I are sitting in for them. In the news tonight, Lake McBride State Park is literally bulging with picnickers and swimmers at this hour as the popular recreation area apparently is rebounding from extremely light crowds Saturday and Sunday. Park officials told Newswatch that today's crowd is about average for the 4th of July, in sharp contrast to yesterday, described as the lightest holiday weekend turnout in recent memory. Park rangers say the beach and 5 parking lots were packed by early afternoon. And today's turnout would provide some interesting information for a survey on the use of Lake McBride, a survey underway now. That survey for the Conservation Commission will show just how heavily McBride is used and how accurately park officials estimate that use.
Rowdy campers at a couple.
The biggest little 4th of July parade in Iowa. That's how Cedar Bluffs bills its annual 4th of July celebration. And Newswatch reporter Chuck Malloy says the town of 200 attracted thousands to this year's celebration.
Normally, Cedar Bluffs is a small, quiet...
Horses run.
Maggie, a couple of Iowa City residents decided to celebrate the nation's birthday in their own birthday suits. That's right, the two were found sunbathing in the nude in the Iowa City Cemetery yesterday. The two were not arrested, their names haven't been released, but the nude bathers were ordered to put on their clothes and leave the cemetery.
Coming next, a crowded Cedar River keeps the Lynn Sheriff's Department busy. We'll have a filmed report.
And we'll preview a very important murder trial, so stay right here.
Tim Fleischer, WMT News Watch on the Cedar River.
Cedar Rapids police are looking tonight for thieves who stole a 1968 Plymouth station wagon and then drove it into Cedar Lake. The car, owned by a New York woman, was stolen from a hotel parking lot in the Quad Cities. It happened sometime between 10 last night and 4 this morning. The car was then driven to Cedar Rapids and dumped in the lake. Arson is the suspected cause of a fire that destroyed a vacant home in Hiawatha late last night. The home is about a half-mile south of Blair's Ferry Road, and it had not been lived in for about 15 years. A resident at the 5-season trailer court told Hiawatha fire officials that he saw 3 youths running from that house just before the fire broke out. Fortunately, nobody hurt in that Hiawatha fire.
10 people have died. Anyway.
This week, the 4 biggest U.S. tire makers are going to be hiking their prices 3 to 5%. To help soften that blow, our helping hand, Tom Eisen, has some advice that can increase your tire's mileage up to 20%. No matter. And today, Eastern Iowans rushed to record shops and brought out entire stocks of Elvis Presley albums.
There was a lady in here, you know, when we got the news, and she just ran right back to the Elvis records. And, you know, there's been a lot of people in, like last night and this morning.
What ages are they?
They're all ages, like from 6, 8 on up, 30s, 40s.
For the Elvis fans in Eastern Iowa, the music, if not the man, lives on.
Almighty
Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch in Cedar Rapids. Dave Anderson of Cedar Falls has been gay for 9 of his 21 years.
About 7th grade, I realized that something different was taking place, and I shoved it out of my mind until about senior in high school. And then I finally realized that it was really there, and I needed to work on it.
So Dave left home. His parents could not accept his homosexuality.
I'd like to settle down sometime and be happy, I guess, but so far it's not worked out yet. I used to date, and it's just, I know what it's like, and it doesn't appeal to me.
While Dave Anderson hasn't encountered an undue amount of prejudice or discrimination because he's gay, many homosexuals in our area are traumatized by the taunts of queer and dyke, and many bear the scars of that prejudice all their lives.
They react by feeling depressed or by, sadly enough, by hating themselves.
Psychologist Melissa Farley of Cedar Rapids, who counsels gays that prejudice is not their fault. She tells them they've done nothing wrong. She says many Eastern Iowans are homophobic. They have an intense fear of homosexuals.
These people are anxious about sex. They're guilty about sex. They think that sex is mainly for having babies. Sometimes they even sing and drink a lot of Florida orange juice.
Anita Bryant being pied by a gay in Des Moines. Dave Anderson says it was an embarrassing incident, bad for gays.
Well, at least it's a fruit pie.
Anita, let's pray.
And Father, I want to ask that you forgive him.
That we love him.
And that we love him. And that we're praying for him.
But Dave believes gays will get full legal rights in the next 10 years. And he says he'll still be gay then.
I've never considered myself sick. I'm healthy, physically and mentally both. And I have no reason to think I'm sick.
I'm Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch, Cedar Falls.
Thanksgiving is a holiday for families to be together, but a Johnson County family which says it's been duped by a government agency will spend Thanksgiving looking for a missing daughter. Mike Walcher at large reports on the case of Francie Ryhans.
22-year-old Francine is epileptic and slightly mentally retarded. She attended a Job Corps training center near Kansas City, Missouri until mid-October when she mysteriously disappeared. That started 6 weeks of heartache for Francine's mother and sisters. They say they don't think she walked away, as the school claimed, because she left her coat and purse behind. They say Kansas City detectives have spotted a woman matching Francine's description in the company of pimps and petty thieves. They fear she and other missing girls were enticed away from the center and forced into a prostitution ring.
When you go to bed at night,
I see Francine.
You pray that you'll see her again?
Sure do.
Okay.
I put a lot of time in with her. And I know she's good somewhere. You know, she's bad now. I don't think she's to blame.
And what does the Job Corps say? Well, today, the Ryhans' home in Solon was the scene of a meeting with the school director and the Cedar Rapids worker who first told the family that the school was well-staffed to handle Francine.
She had had some problems, and really, perhaps it was not a good choice to send her to the center.
And this afternoon, Francine's mother and one of her sisters left Solon for Kansas City. While we're sitting down to Thanksgiving dinner, they'll be pounding Kansas City streets. They say they'll stay on the streets. They will search until they find Francine. I'm Mike Walcher at large, WMT News Watch in Johnson County. The 75-mile-an-hour southwest wind ripped through Arlington about 5:20, driving 1 inch of rain along with it. It picked up the concession stand and one set of bleachers at the athletic field and smashed both to the ground 30 feet away. The wind ripped apart trees and bent corn stalks in a shotgun-scattered fashion all over this town of 480 people. But the worst damage happened here, 1 mile west of Arlington, where the wind picked up the Randy Nuss mobile home, flung it through the air 50 feet, and smashed it against the side of a barn. Nuss was doing chores nearby when the wind hit, but his wife Linda, 7 months pregnant, was inside the trailer.
I went up there and it was just gone, and it was all bashed up against this large corn crib we got here, and I started hollering for her and didn't hear anything. It was so windy I couldn't hear anything anyhow, and then the wind took me and threw me quite a ways. And
how did you feel eventually when you saw her? You came back later and saw her, you know, literally walking away from it.
Well, I just thank God, you know, and just thank God that she was okay. And
pregnant Linda Nuss is being held for observation at the Old Wine Hospital. As evening fell, local power and phone company crews converged on Arlington to repair downed lines. Power was restored to most homes after a blackout of several hours. Everyone I talked to said the damaging gust of wind lasted only about 45 seconds. But the damage done by the 45-second windstorm will take Arlington residents weeks to repair and probably years to forget. This is Mike Walcher, WMT News Watch in Arlington.
What are the chances your child will be a victim of sudden infant death, the #1 killer of babies in eastern Iowa? Tonight, our Mike Walcher at Large begins a 4-part series on the mysterious killer and how vulnerable your child is.
Sudden infant death syndrome, what most of us call crib death, is the mystery disease that kills 1 out of 350 of our children every year. After accidents, it's the biggest killer of children under 15 years of age. It's more common than highly publicized diseases like muscular dystrophy. Tom and Linda Carlin knew little of crib death until 4 years ago. Tom had put their 4-month-old daughter Laurie to bed and then checked back on her 15 minutes later.
She was in an awkward position laying, and I had no idea what had happened, and at the time I was going to turn her back over in a more comfortable position, and I thought she would wake up, so I went out and I even fixed just a small bottle for her for when she woke up. And when I went back in and turned her over, why, I could tell that she was dead.
The cause of this child killer that dates back to the Old Testament is a bona fide mystery. All we know is that apparently healthy babies between 2 weeks and 2 years die almost instantly in their sleep. Most die in the winter, and 1/2 the victims have a cold or just got over one. Autopsies show hemorrhaging and fluid in the lungs, little more. We know it's not caused by bottle feeding or milk allergy, as the old wives' tales claimed. And it's not caused by suffocation or child abuse. It may be caused by apnea. Now, that's a stop in breathing that affects some children. Most of the kids start breathing again, but some may close off their air passages so often it eventually kills them. Statistics show that male babies and lighter weight infants tend to be the greatest risks for crib death. But as Linda Carlin knows, all babies are potential victims of this unpredictable and unpreventable killer.
Yes, I thought maybe there's something I put in the bed that there's something I didn't do that I could have done that would have prevented this. And as time goes on, you learn that there's nothing that you could have done.
Mike Walcher at Large, WMT News Watch, Cedar Rapids. Suspected cause of a fire that destroyed a vacant home in Hiawatha late last night. The home is about a half-mile south of Blair's Ferry Road, and it had not been lived in for about 15 years. A resident at the 5-season trailer court told Hiawatha fire officials that he saw 3 youths running from that house just before the fire broke out. Fortunately, nobody hurt in that Hiawatha fire.
10 people have died on our roads since the holiday weekend began Friday. The latest reported victim is 16-year-old Donald Behrens of rural Cascade. Young Behrens died today after a head-on crash yesterday in Dubuque County that also claimed 2 other lives. Nationwide, 463 people have died in traffic accidents. One way to save lives in cars is to require airbags and automatic safety belts. At least that's the view of the Department of Transportation, and the Commissioner of the Iowa Public Safety Department is urging Congress not to give in on the airbag issue. Charles Larson says the auto industry will lobby hard to defeat the airbag proposal. Larson says the bags are safe and could cut down on head and chest injuries.
Maggie, jury selection is set to begin in Cedar Rapids tomorrow in the Robert Williams murder trial. Rick Leonard has this background report.
I hope this animalistic person, whoever he is, and I dare say it isn't me, will be brought to justice. The words of Robert Anthony Williams the day he left for Fort Madison 8 years ago. Williams' 1969 conviction in the sex slaying of 10-year-old Pamela Powers of Des Moines was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court in March of this year. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court ruled Williams' rights were violated as he led authorities to the body without consulting his attorney. The new trial was moved to Cedar Rapids on a change of venue from Des Moines and delayed once when defense attorneys got permission to exhume the body of a Minnesota man. Williams' attorneys are expected to implicate the man, a former Des Moines YMCA employee. Witnesses in the first trial said Williams carried a blanket-wrapped bundle from the Des Moines Y Christmas Eve 1968. The Powers girl was last seen while attending a wrestling match there the same day. The Linn County Sheriff's Department has kept the details of Williams' arrival and detention here in Cedar Rapids under wraps. By the same token, the trial itself is expected to be surrounded by tight security. I'm Rick Leonard, WMT Newswatch, Cedar Rapids.
Knee-high by the 4th of July? Well, it's even better than that. We'll take a look at Eastern Iowa's corn.
And we'll get some helping hand advice on how to fight the rising price of tires when Newswatch continues.
If your engine runs on
Today, the school board met in an unusual holiday session and fired Principal William Cook for alleged insubordination to School Superintendent Donald Lau. An arbitrator had recommended that Cook keep his job, but the board fired him anyway.
This week, the 4 biggest U.S. tire makers are going to be hiking their prices 3 to 5%. To help soften that blow, our helping hand Tom Eisen has some advice that can increase your tire's mileage up to 20%.
No matter what kind of tires you have, a few simple and inexpensive precautions can inject thousands of extra miles into their life. Most critical is proper tire inflation. Since many gas stations are now self-service and don't check tire pressure anymore, you should make a habit of doing it yourself.
You really should carry an air gauge and check these about, perhaps every other week. Many people that come into our place of business, in many cases, will be as much as 10 pounds under the recommended pressure. And this will cause premature tire failure. It really will.
The owner of this beat-up tire spent $40 for a new one today. It should have lasted months longer, but she kept it underinflated, failed to rotate it every 6,000 miles, and her car was way out of alignment.
The sad truth about tires is that about half die an early death because the owner didn't take care of them. Simple things like checking the air pressure, rotating the tires, seeing that the car is aligned. If you come here to get sympathy for a tire worn through negligence, the dealer is just going to say, "Don't tread on me." Tom Eisen, the Newswatch Helping Hand, Cedar Rapids.
Oh, brother. John Telich updates the world of sports on this 4th of July when we come back.
Come celebrate, come save. It's the True Test Anniversary Paint Sale. Savings galore at your participating True Value hardware store. Yes, save on True Test Satin Hue Flat Interior Latex Paint, the flat finish that adds an elegant richness to all walls. Choose from a rainbow of warm colors for your decor. Best of all, True Test Satin Hue Interior Latex at the anniversary sale price is just $7.97 a gallon at all participating True Value hardware stores.
Well, this may be the 4th of July for you and me, but it's Father's Day for John Telich, whose wife had a little baby girl yesterday.
Boy, I'll tell you, I'm still recovering. Yesterday morning, 7:13, we have a baby, 8 pounds, 6 ounces, a little girl, and I'm still recovering from it. Her name's Courtney Eileen. It's our first, and I'll tell you, nothing in the world tops seeing your first baby born.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Somehow we'll get into sports.
Okay.
Well, Richard Petty, he got back into business after a 2-hour rain delay to win today's Firecracker 400 in Daytona Beach. King Richard finished 18 seconds ahead of Darrell Waltrip. Benny Parsons third, Cale Yarborough, NASCAR point leader, dropped out of the race. It was bad news in Chicago today for all you Cubs fans. They look like they're on their way to dropping 2 as we check the scoreboard today. 19-3 in that first ball game. What's funny, Larry Bittner, infielder and outfielder, actually pitched in the game. He gave up 3 home runs, 6 runs.